Hi all and welcome to Excel Basics Plus. In today's session I want to revisit the if, and or functions, which is a powerful tool which is great for sorting your data or even preparing your data for pivot tables. And I'll briefly touch on how we can create a pivot table from all of this data. So in today's data, we're looking at a first name, last name, the person's email address, what gender are they, what sort of car do they drive, the car model, year, and color. And what I'm going to do is create a formula which actually returns a value, if you like, a 1 or a 0, should the gender be female. So this is up here. The gender be female, the car make be Ford, and the color of the car be green, orange, or red. Now, a couple of things here. In preparing data for pivot tables, you could use actual words, and the one that I like is in scope. If you're only looking up one certain particular set of criteria, then the in scope function means that can actually be your filter in a pivot table. So there's another way we can get around that, and I'll show you that once we've done the if formula. So let's get straight into it. So as I said, we're looking for gender as female, car make as Ford, and the color in I2 being green, orange, or red. So straight off the bat, it's equals if. Everyone should know the if statement. And what we're going to be doing is we're looking at multiple criteria, but they all need to be met for the result to be true, i.e. the value 1. So what this will give us at the end, we've got 200 lines of data here. We are looking for the count of rows which actually have met all of the criteria. So we'll use the value 1. If it's not true, the answer will be 0. So to ensure that we're encompassing all the criteria, we need to use the AND formula. That ensures that everything that every criteria that we tell it to look for is met to provide a positive result. So if, and. Now the first thing we want to have a look at is the gender female. So we can click on cell E2, or we can type it, whatever's easier. Does E2 equal, in parentheses, female? Close parentheses. Second part, does the car make, cell F2, equal Ford? Close parentheses, comma. Now, the last piece is we're looking for the color, and the color can be one of 3 options, green, orange, or red. So this is where we use our OR function within the AND function. So all we do is very simple. It's OR open bracket. So we're starting another formula within the AND formula, which is within the if formula. So we are nesting formulas in formulas, but we're telling it what to do and in what order. So we've already told it, go and look in gender. If it's female, yes. If it's Ford, yes. And if the color is green, orange, or red, then yes, it's a positive result. So what we're going to say is I2 equals green, in parentheses, comma. And because it's in an OR formula, that comma means OR. So whereas in the AND formula, we're saying, or even an if formula, if you like, the AND formula is saying E2 must equal female and F2 must equal Ford. And out of these 3 options, we're going to give it 1 must be true. So that's why we're using the OR formula. So then we just go through and go I2 equals orange, comma, or I2 equals red, parentheses, closing the OR formula. Now you notice that the opening bracket for OR is purple. The closing bracket that we just did is also purple. So it matches the formula so that you know where you're up to. Now we've closed off the OR formula. The next thing we need to do is we need to close off the AND formula. And you'll see that is red. And it's red in front of the E2, so after the AND formula. Now, the interesting part here for you, as a little note, after after all formulas, the very first bracket is black. So that is also your last bracket. The second bracket is always red. So that is always your second to last bracket. So you now know that the second to last bracket has been done. We now need to finish the first formula, which is if. And what do we do with if? If this, then this. So comma. What is the value if true? We want a number 1, comma, and if it's not true, what did we say? We said 0. And then we close the bracket. You'll see the bracket is black. Okay, so recap. It's an if formula. So if these two are true, E2 equals female, so the gender equals female, and the car make equals Ford, and the color equals green, orange, or red. Apologies, there we go. Green, orange, or red. Then the result is 1. If it's not, the result is 0. So we press enter, and we clearly know that that is not correct because it's a BMW, so that doesn't fit into the criteria. So let's double click that the whole way down. 200 rows of data. Let's see if we can find 1. A lot of zeros, a lot of zeros. Here's a 1. All right, how do we go? We go Ford, female, and red. So it's a 1. Here's another one. Here's an orange one. Ford, female. We keep going down. There's another one. 1, Ford, female, and a Econoline orange. Another one here. It's an orange Ford Ranger, female. So you can see it is giving the correct result. Now, to actually see how many we have by count, we can just simply go to the bottom of the data, which is, of course, a long way down because there's 200 rows, and just use an auto sum. Auto sum in the home ribbon, and there's 9. So there's 9 values. So let's go to the top of the data again. Now, I was talking about preparing our data for potential pivot tables. So let's have a look at how else we can get this data ready for a pivot table. Now, I like to call it the in-scope column. So we'll just call it in-scope. And it's a very, very simple formula now because we actually have, in this data, we're actually saying, give us a 1 if the data is true. Now, we could actually change that 1 to parentheses, in scope, close parentheses. And that then gives us that text value that we want. And then the 0 might be not in scope or blank, 2 parentheses side by side. So we'll leave that formula for now, and I'll show you the in scope. So another if formula, very, very simple. Equals if, open bracket. If J2 equals 1, then, comma, parentheses, in scope, parentheses. And if not, what do we want? We're just going to do parentheses. We're going to have it blank, close bracket. That is it. So if the J2 result is 1, we know it's true, therefore it is in scope. If J2 does not equal 1, then it will return a blank result. 2 parentheses together, blank result. And press enter. Now that's blank. Let's just double click it down. We know there's a formula in there. And let's scroll down and we can see 1 in scope, 1 in scope, 1 in scope, and so on. So we know that's working. So what we can do now, and here's one I prepared earlier. Here's a pivot table without the in scope ready. Now I had to do a bit of work to get this. Okay, I've had to pull down the gender field into the filters and select it as female. I've then had to pull down the car make into the rows, and we can see we've got the rows there. I've then had to sort the car make and filter it down to just Ford and press OK. I've then had to pull down the color into the rows to bring that under the car make. I've then had to come in here and go into the select field and press color and then unselect all and select green, orange, and red. So there's a bit of work to get to that. And we can now see there are 2 green, 4 orange and 3 red, and we know that there's 9. So let's do it a different way. Let's come back to the car data, and we're going to insert a pivot table. So insert tab on the ribbon, and we want to insert a pivot table. It's chosen all of our data, A through K, all the way down to 201, which is what we understand. It's the headers plus 200 rows of data. We're going to create it on a new worksheet. Actually, no, let's put it on the existing worksheet in the pivot table, pivot tab here, and we'll start it in cell D1 and press OK. All right, so what we now have to do is drag the InScope field, which we just created, into the filters and select InScope and press OK. We can now pull the car make down, and we can pull the color down. And for count, there's a couple of ways we do this. Now, I use the first name. It's just counting because we know there is a value in every single field for the first name. I've used that. Now, what if I used the last name this time? I'll pull the last name down, and either way, it's coming up with exactly the same results. I have not had to do all the filtering I did in this report because we created the InScope field in our car data. That last column has actually saved us a lot of work, and it was a very simple formula. If J2 equals 1, return InScope, otherwise leave it blank. So that is one of the important parts about preparing your data to make your life easier. A simple formula can save you even more time when running the pivot tables as well. So look, as I said, this wasn't the this wasn't the best formula that you would use in this case. You would actually go down the track of creating a pivot table up front. What you could also do is you could actually have drop-down lists, or you could have a you could even put in here the parameters you need, which could be female, Ford, and then your colors, red, green, orange, and you could reference those cells. So a lot of different ways you could do it, but it just goes to show you that there are many different ways of doing things. You just need to find the most efficient to do it. I hope you've enjoyed today's session. Keep practicing. Above all else, keep practicing. If you don't practice, you do lose the ability to remember how to do certain formulas. If you're working with this stuff every day, it makes it a lot easier to remember how to do this stuff. And look, like and subscribe to the video. Turn on your notifications. That way you'll find out when new videos drop, and you'll be able to get some more training under your belt. Enjoy.